What's up, guys? Today I thought I would talk a little bit about dopamine. Um, First off, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm no expert, but I feel like I've figured some shit out with dopamine and feel like I've been making some serious progress as far as motivation and dopamine detoxing goes. And I see a lot of online articles and YouTube videos that have no idea what they're talking about and get it completely wrong. So let's start with the beginning. Dopamine, what is it? It's a neurotransmitter. It's the molecule of more. It's what gives us a feeling of motivation. And without dopamine, you're not doing anything. Without dopamine, you would die very quickly of thirst because you wouldn't have the motivation to get up and go get a glass of water. You might die before that. That'll probably be your cause of death. Anyway, I'm getting away from the point. So everything you do involves dopamine, literally everything you do. Even from the smallest tasks to the most long-term goals, everything is motivated by dopamine. So how does dopamine work? Well, dopamine's released at two different times. First time dopamine can be released is following an unexpected reward. So here's where we get, for example, gambling addiction. You're playing at a casino and you're pulling the slot lever and you're pulling the slot lever and you're pulling the slot lever and you're not winning, and you don't expect to win. And then one of the times you win and you win pretty big. Then you get hit by a huge spurt of dopamine. It feels incredible. Well, that huge spurt of dopamine, following some rest and following some recovery, is going to trigger neuroplasticity to reinforce that pathway so that you repeat your perceived behavior that led to that dopamine release. And so you go back and you gamble the next day or you gamble a few days later. You keep playing, you get another unexpected reward here, another unexpected reward here, and this can quickly become addictive and an addiction. And when you look at addictive substances like cocaine, extremely addictive, it artificially jacks up your dopamine receptors, and we seek behavior that releases dopamine. So that's key in addiction. So what's the second time dopamine can be released? Well, the second time dopamine is released is more common. It's actually what's happening all the time. It's in anticipation of a reward. And let's reframe our idea of what a reward is here. When we think of reward, we're thinking of something shiny or an achievement or a trophy or money or things of that nature. But really a reward means basically anything that you set out for or that enhances survival or enhances chances of reproduction. So that's most of life, most of the human experience. We're seeking things in that nature, whether it's you want to go out and hang out with your friends and socialize, or you're hungry, you want to go eat, or you're thirsty, or a whole range of things, whatever it is. And it gets a little blurred nowadays because we have so many products that artificially tap into these natural processes and reward-seeking behavior, such as video games and things of that nature, social media. They've found these little chinks in the armor where humans are susceptible, and they capitalize on that heavily and make a lot of money. But really, those are the two times dopamine is released: following an unexpected reward or in anticipation of a reward. So let me try to illustrate the in anticipation of reward. So, okay, I'm really thirsty and I want a glass of water, just to make it really simple. Well, wherever I am, dopamine's going to help me get up or make a plan whether that plan is conscious or unconscious, we're going to figure out how to get water. So that might just mean getting up from the couch and walking over to get a glass of water. And it starts off, you start getting dopamine, starts releasing. You're getting motivated. As you get closer and closer to the reward, your motivation gets more and more because more and more dopamine is getting released. So the hardest part is really getting started. But once you're almost there, it doesn't even seem like work anymore when you're working towards the goals a lot of the time, or reward-seeking behavior, because so much dopamine is being released. And here's a huge misconception most people think. When you get that reward, like when you take a bite into that cheeseburger, that you're like, people associate pleasure with dopamine. But that's not true. Dopamine, the height of dopamine is right before you take that bite. It's right before you get that reward. Because once you've got the reward, dopamine's good. You don't need any more dopamine. You don't need more motivation. You've got the reward. And there's a cocktail of other neurotransmitters that are really associated with that pleasure you're feeling from that reward. So there's a huge misconception most people get. They say like, oh, so much dopamine is being released, when in reality what they mean is, I feel so good, or it feels really good. Usually those things are not equivalent. So that's a little bit about dopamine. So why do we find things exciting? Why do we find certain things motivating? And why do we find other things super boring? Why is doing work or doing homework or things of that nature, chores, why can they feel so unmotivating? Well, it's not that they don't release dopamine, because we've already said that everything releases dopamine. It's actually in comparison to what you're doing outside of work, outside of school, outside of chores, that's so stimulating, releasing so much dopamine, that by comparison, these less stimulating rewards are very boring and very unmotivating, because it's really a sensitivity thing and it's a comparison thing. It's not about how much dopamine is being released. It's how much dopamine is being released in relation to how much dopamine has been released in the past. So if you're scrolling through social media and, you got a pop by your side and you're hitting a vape and you got the TV on, you are getting absolutely flooded with dopamine and stimulation. You're getting overstimulated, so stimulated. So how can you expect to do that and then expect to have any motivation to do anything that's slightly difficult or uncomfortable? You're just not. You're not going to have motivation. So, like many things in life, success isn't about adding things. It's about actually scaling back and removing things, eliminating things. So dopamine detox, how do we actually detox? Well, it's not necessarily detoxing, because we need dopamine to do anything. It's more recalibration. So if you want to be unlimitedly motivated and find work so exciting and fun, schoolwork, chores, things that you used to think were the most boring things on earth and that you have no motivation for, you can make those things like play. You can make those things so exciting, so easy to do. And even if they're not easy, that discomfort and uncomfortability becomes pleasurable, because you realize it's a stimulus for growth and you're growing, and that's so motivating in itself for you. But how do we get to that state? Because that's possible for anyone. It's really about what you do outside of those tasks. So when you take a break, you're like, okay, I just worked for half an hour on this project. Let me take a 5-minute break. What do you usually do? That would be my question for people that are feeling unmotivated. What do you do in your break times? I would have to guess most of you grab your phone and you swipe through social media, check here, notification here, respond to this, maybe scroll through your feed, check out what's going on ESPN and things like that. And you're getting stimulated and stimulated, and it feels stimulating and it feels good in this break. And then you try to go back to work, and work is like, oh, I don't want to do this. Well, yeah, because you just overstimulated your brain. You stimulated it really highly outside of work. And now by comparison, work sucks. So stop doing that. During your breaks, if you want work to be fun, you want your break time to be extremely boring, extremely low stimulation, because then by comparison, your work is going to be a blast. So what do? You stare at a wall for 5 minutes, stare at a wall for 10 minutes, nothing. You don't do anything. Or you meditate, or you do breath work, or you just sit there and think, or you do some light exercise, or go for a walk and don't listen to music. You just do one simple thing that's pretty boring. And by comparison, work will be a blast and work will be easy. So on that note of stimulation, doing multiple things, I've already touched on this, doing multiple things at the same time is going to be way more stimulating and release way more dopamine than doing one thing at a time. So do you want work to be fun? Do you want work to be motivating? Then stop stacking things at the same time. Do one thing at a time. If you're going to listen to music, sit down and close your eyes and listen to music. Don't go exercise and listen to music every time. You know, moderation is key, but if you need music to get you to work out, or you need music to go for a run, or you need music to take a shower, or you need to scroll on your phone to go to the bathroom, you can't imagine doing those things just by themselves. Just going to the toilet and sitting there with your own thoughts, just taking a shower in quiet, just going to the gym without any music, then yeah, I'm sure you're having a pretty difficult time with your work life. Unless you've got some crazy, unique job where you're just loving it. Even then, I don't know. The hard things are going to be hell for you, because you're constantly needing stimulation and you're constantly spiking your dopamine and stimulation. And by comparison, boring tasks suck. So really the key is recalibrating, right? The takeaway here is, if you want work to be fun and do better at work, you've got to, your life outside of work has got to be less stimulating than work itself. So it's got to be boring, and that's uncomfortable. And, you know, most people will hear that and they'll understand exactly what I'm saying and they'll ignore it, or they'll find some way to justify what they're doing. And I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. That's for you to decide. And if I can just get you this idea to you, I'm sure most of you someday will come back to this idea and you'll make some progress, even if it's not now. But yeah, I think it's really summarized well in the quote, "Easy decisions, hard life. Hard decisions, easy life." So you get to make that choice. Cut out the social media. Cut out the doing multiple things at once. Cut out the overstimulation. And everything will fall into place. You'll start finding motivation to do things you never had. And you'll start enjoying what you're doing a lot more. So, yeah. Take what you want from this video. I've been implementing what I'm teaching right now, and it feels life-changing, 100%. Yeah. Hard decisions, easy life. Your choice. Talk to you guys later.